Hello, and thank you for tuning in to the Flatiron Syndicate Motorsports Podcast. This show is brought to you by Flatiron's Tuning, your source for any aftermarket or OEM Subaru parts. Be sure to check out our store at flatirons.tuning.com and stay tuned with Flatiron's Tuning.
All right. Well, welcome back, everybody, to the Flatiron Syndicate Podcast. We are here today with two guests who you might well know. Dewey over here, you probably recognize him from IAG's Thursday Thing. Devin down here, he's been on the podcast a couple of times. You might recognize him from Professional Awesome. But these two guys, they actually have formed a super podcast group called Heat Exchanger. So you guys now have your own podcast, even on top of these other podcasts called the Heat Exchanger. And the first question I have for you guys is, tell me that story. Like, where did this come from? How did you guys decide, like, hey, we gotta have these chats and record them and all this sort of stuff?
Devin, you want it or you want me to take this?
I think you got it.
All right. So long story short, Heat Exchanger came from a concept him and I had where him and I would talk about how we wish certain podcasts would say certain things or they'd beat around the bush on certain topics. It wouldn't tackle the drama head on. And honestly, the drama's half the fun. The story behind what's going on in the pits and everything else, that's where a lot of the bread and butter and entertainment of a lot of this stuff is. And we thought we could do a podcast for that specifically. I don't remember how I came up with the name, but the name fits it. The whole concept was to try to get maybe controversial people within the industry or people with strong opinions or, people that maybe right or wrong or other just prominent figures to kind of answer to stuff. Like a few weeks ago, we had the new CEO of Gridlife on, and everybody was all tweaked out about gold pass stuff and how hard it is to get a ticket and yada yada yada, and we just let the man speak for it, and he did a great job, and I think it was great for the community. I think it cleared the air for a lot of things, and that was the whole concept behind it. And Devin and I have desperately tried to make sure that we separate, IAG and Professional Awesome are not a part of this podcast.
Right.
The Heat Exchanger podcast is its own thing. And the second you step into the ring, the gloves are off.
Okay.
So that's really what that podcast is about. So punches are not allowed to be pulled. And then recently we also added one of the loudest men in the paddock and definitely opinionated, James Houghton is a part of the podcast now too. So James is now an official part of that podcast.
Oh, very cool. I like this idea. You're right. Sometimes addressing a problem head on is the best way rather than trying to just kind of skirt around it or do something in conversations in the background. I think you're almost crazy for doing it as a podcast, but it makes sense. And you're right. Yeah.
So
also, oh, go ahead.
Yeah, it's worked out really well. There's a lot of stuff that's needed to be aired out, and the more every season there's more and more of it. And honestly, what you end up finding out is what people think is actual scary drama is really just two buddies. Which half the fun of it.
Yeah, so. And specify too, or explain the series that you're talking about here. That is kind of what's the motivation behind this. Well, the racing series.
Oh, Gridlife?
Yeah.
Oh,
where the drama is coming from and that sort of thing.
Yeah. Devin, you want to take this?
Okay, all right. Let me set up for this.
I mean, you're more OG than I am, so I think you're actually better to talk about the origins of Gridlife. So
yeah, I mean, for me, it's like Gridlife was one of those things that I asked for quite some time. Like just have a central region type time attack thing, and Gridlife has always evolved to involve the media side of things. I guess the drama comes from, let's be honest, any form of motorsport, there's a lot of pride and ego involved, right? And people take pride in doing what they like doing, spending their money how they like spending it. So in time, you just come up with things that some people might find fair, some people might not find fair, or rules that were skirted and weren't enforced, things like that. So you get a lot of like chatter, right? Like I say, like in a railroad, if one person tells you a story, by the time it gets back to you, it's done more to be the worst thing ever. Um,
Sure.
so you get that a lot with time attack, where um, like protests can be a thing that people consider, a badge of honor, or you can consider like an ultimate insult from a competitor, right? So
Hmm.
things like that, like we're just trying to mend, like we're trying to get both sides of the story and get it all out there in the atmosphere, and kind of have a place for people to be able to vent, right? So we do it live.
Hmm.
So people, if they feel they've been wronged or duped, to
Mm,
voice it to us or voice it live, and we can talk about it. Because
nice.
every weekend has some type of frustration somebody will have. Either it'll go forgotten or they'll hold on to it and compartmentalize it forever. So
Yeah.
we just want to be that microphone for the people that might not be heard.
Interesting. Now, I'm curious, having done this for even the amount of time that you guys have, it seems to me like one of the possible out or results of this would be like knowing that there is like if there's an issue, that there's a public forum that the issue might be discussed on. Does it kind of, one, help kind of solve some of these issues, but two, kind of keep things in check so that people are not obsessing about something just just because of like a small frustration, because they realize, well, hey, I might have to get on a podcast and defend this at some point.
Maybe.
Maybe, yeah, maybe. I
Maybe.
mean, we're too early on to see that right now.
I, I
Mm,
Um,
I think there being a public forum is something that's needed to exist for a while.
mhm.
And I think a public forum that is not ran by the actual sanctioning body is probably a good place for it to be. So then it's actually public. People are gonna maybe pull their punches a little more if they think it's being ran by somebody. That we're both drivers within Gridlife. We both are a part of the community, and it's kind of ran by the community for the community.
right.
Yeah, being a
Well,
third party is always great and things like that, right? Like
Yeah.
sure.
imagine GM trying to regulate themselves. Not gonna fucking
Right.
happen.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Okay. Well, so then I had another question for you guys, and I gave you a prompt about this, and I think this is a good lead in, especially since you guys are both drivers. So can you give me just a real quick list, each of you, like a back of the napkin list of the cars that you have driven competitively, kind of, and what you were driving, what series you were driving them in, just kind of just as a, again, it just as a quick list.
You know, so
Devin,
Devin's
Dewey.
list is probably longer than mine. I'm gonna let Devin start because I'm
All right.
pretty fast.
competitively, let's say started off autocross in 240, SR swap car. Did okay with that. Went to try to do national stuff with SCCA, got fucking dog walked, and realized that I don't like standing in parking lot, so it wasn't for me. Bought an S2000, sold the 240, started doing stuff with Global, and then in Street Mod when didn't have to have that as much horsepower. I think Gridlife came out, and kind of just stuck with that for quite some time. And the only other notable track competition cars would probably be my Cayman. I did
Mhm.
GOTC with one race with my Corvette, and now I got my E90. So
So
that's
so time
ballpark.
attack and then a little bit of GLTC. And what are you doing with
Mhm.
the E90?
GOTC as well.
GLTC. Okay, so wheel to wheel time attack. All right. So Dewey, what does your list look like?
I started with a Honda like most people. Did a little bit of drag racing and legal and not legal with that. Then I got into some autocross with that, and just basic low level grassroots stuff, a lot of fun. And then that was a 95 Del Sol VTEC is what I was
Let's
rocking back in
go.
the day.
Okay.
Dude, what a unit. Bought it
Classic.
for a little old lady, B16A. She's a good unit, man. Um, then I got my O2 WRX back in O2. Did a little drag racing with that. Did some autocross with that. I did a single track day with that way back in the day. Um, Went to Tail of the Dragon a whole bunch. Did some rallycross with that. I did a lot of stuff with that car. I did a lot of drag racing with that car though. At
Hmm.
one point, I almost had the TD04 quarter mile record, which was, at the time was really cool to me. But drag racing to me just wasn't sustainable. And really, I'm watching Super Street and Sport Compact Car and all these. I'm reading these magazines and really getting amped up about things like time attack. It just didn't seem like something that would really happen for me. And then 2015 rolled around And I was working at TH Motorsports, and we were a sponsor for this thing called Gridlife, and they forced me to go when I was like, man, I don't know, I got a lot going on this week. And they're like, well, you can run on the track and all this, and we've got tickets for it. And I'm like, all right, I guess. And then my tuner at the time, which was Graham, heard about it, and he's like, dude, we should go. We'll take Megan's car, which is my wife, and we stole her 05 STI, did some very, very basic reliability modifications to it real quick. And we took it and we beat the snot out of that car all weekend, had a riot. And then we decided, since I had tickets for the whole season because we were sponsors, I went to the rest of the events. I went to the first Road America or Road Atlanta event, and I went to just a bunch of these all over the place. And I absolutely fell in love with it. And then I realized I was running times that were super similar to street class. And then the next year, Graham and I both decided to start competing. So this is in
Time Attack.
That was in Time Attack. So that was my 05 STI. And then in 2018 was the last time I ran that. Realized that I at the way the rules sat at that point, my car just wasn't going to be competitive within the class. I wanted to win. I didn't want to just podium. So that's when the thought process of building my current 95 Impreza L, which everybody knows is Boogeyman, that's where it started coming together. And that's where that came from. I kind of took Graham had already won a street mod championship with his car. I took kind of his blueprint, put it into a much lighter car. And I love Graham, but I can outdrive the living shit out of him. So I'm like, lighter car, same amount of power, and I'm driving. We're going to win this, no problem. And it took me many more years to win.
Yeah, but you did.
Overconfidence. But yeah, I finally got it done.
Yeah, nice.
You
the reason...
jobs.
What, the big jumps?
So you'll get there on these big jobs.
Yeah,
I also started grudge racing as well.
Have that.
I also started grudge racing and drag racing as well. Still do it, just not in my own car. But
nice.
Drag racing where it's at.
Oh yeah, okay.
Oh, the drama behind it, man. I wish Gridlife would tap some of that, like that sort of. Dude, I've been screaming that for years. My God, like they need to promote that shit.
That's what I'm saying.
It's so good because it gets the crowd amped up.
Right. And people root for cars. That's why having a nickname for your car, that's pretty fucking important.
I'm just saying. You know what? I didn't.
Sorry. I digress.
Man. Okay. Well, so the reason I asked you that is to kind of give people the framework if they haven't heard you guys before or know where you guys come from, like how broad both of your experience is. And like, so now my question is, here in 2024, if you didn't have that experience, but using that knowledge that you have, if you were going to start out trying to drive a car now and you wanted to get into doing something competitive with your car, would you follow the same paths? What would you do? What do you think you guys would start doing?
I know how I would go about it.
Yeah, well, like what mindset are we coming in from? Are we coming in from like, do you know what discipline you want to do going in? Or are we just saying somebody has a car?
Does Gridlife exist in this magic world? Yes. We just
start right now.
We're just outside.
We're now. We're in now. But let's say you've got a guy that has a car that likes to drive. I like to drive in the mountains. I've maybe done an autocross or two, but I realize I want to do something that's competitive. I want to get into doing something competitive.
Maybe he does some sim racing.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. But he wants to actually do it for real. Where would you start? How would you do that? And what platform would you pick?
I know how I would send them. Now I'm a little different than Devin. I have a very Subaru background. You're going to hear just quasi stuff from me. So I got to be real. Sunday Cup is amazing. Okay. So go pick up a fit, and there's prepped Sunday Cup fits. Okay. That people sell that are basically ready to compete, that you're going to learn if you've got the chops for this real fast. Drive a slow car fast. But I would either do that, or if I had already started with a car, I may tell you to sell that car and buy a BRZ. And Club TR is really good. It's really competitive, and it costs a little money to prep a car, but It's not too awful, and you can have an extraordinarily competitive car without having to completely kill yourself to do it. And honestly, that's where I'd tell a lot of people to start. Club TR is phenomenal. And then from Club TR, you can kind of decide which direction you want to go. Maybe you're like, I really like this, but maybe wheel to wheel is more my thing. Throw a cage in that car. Now it's a GLTC car.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you have a few directions, or maybe you're like, I want to go a ton faster. I love this time attack thing. Decide on adding horsepower or how you want to go about that, or maybe sell it and get a Corvette, which honestly is the right answer.
For a lot of things.
Yeah. Horsepower. Yeah. So
interesting.
Devin would go with that.
That is actually interesting, right? Because I would have to agree. If you want to go the time attack route and you're just starting out, if you're not already married to a chassis, I say if you're married to a chassis already, let's say if you are married to a chassis, I want it to be as close to a street car as possible, and go run some HPDs and see what your pace is. See if you're even going to be competitive with it, right? Point. If you're not, then whatever class it falls in currently, if you're not, sell it. Get a Corvette. Honestly, like if you want to go fast, get a Corvette. If you want to run Club TR, insert BRZ, FRS, insert S2000, insert Miata, insert anything that can get you as close as possible to 10.0 power to weight with under a 2.5 liter engine. Simple. If you like driving slow cars fast, go to Sunday Cup. For me, I don't, because they don't have arrows. Fuck them. And I mean, other than that, and then like from Club TR, yeah, you can choose any route you want to go. Even if you choose the Corvette route, now you can choose the GOGT route, or if you want to keep, pursuing records, right? But that's what I would go. Like if you're not married to something, Corvette or Club TR. But if you are, make it a street car or as close to a street car as possible. Get out there and see where your pace is at. Either way, you need to see where your pace is at.
Yep. Because right.
You're going to get out there and realize like the shit that looks not that quick on TV or on the live stream is fucking flying, right?
Yeah,
sure. So, and it's not as easy to do it, even as it might be in the sim, if you actually are in the car, actually on the track. Yeah.
So a lot of changes happened this year for Gridlife. HPDE no longer exists within Gridlife. Okay. As it stands on an official standpoint at their normal Gridlife events, HPDE is not a thing. I don't know. I think they're still doing Honda Meet and some other stuff. That's a different thing. But like Gridlife, as you go to Gridlife's site, there's no longer HPDE. So you're going to have to find some HPDE events, maybe at tracks that you could compare your time. Or if you're really starting out from the ground up, like you really don't even know where, like if you can drive at all, at this point, HPDE is always the place to start. Find your local HPDE groups and get to the track. I can't stress that enough. Don't sit there and prep your car forever. Go to the track.
Right.
Get your ass to the track.
So so HPDE, high performance driving experience. Most tracks will have, like, usually they rent out the track each weekend, and it's usually either a series, something like SCCA will have events on weekends in certain tracks. NASA, National Autosport Association, has HPDE events at tracks through the calendar, and then car clubs typically will rent out the track. And so any one of these events, like actually most tracks will have a website with a calendar, and you can just kind of go down the weekends and look at like which group is renting the track at which weekend, search for that group, see what the opportunities are to get on the track with that group. That's a good, I would say that would be a good place to start to find out what track is available when and how you can get on there.
Yep. And I got to be real, like the big boy tracks, your Road Americas, your Road Atlantas, your Codas, stuff like that, they're going to be expensive. But your more grassroots farm tracks, like say like a Gingerman or something along those lines. Blackhawk, very good example. Even honestly, Autobahn, Pit Race too. Pit Race, they run a lot of stuff like that. These tracks are probably a better spot for you to start anyway, and the prices will be a lot more reasonable, and the groups tend to be quite a bit smaller, and you tend to have less psychopaths.
Right.
You don't need to go you don't need to start messing with axe murders till you actually get the Gridlife if you can help it.
Sure. Yeah, like going out to an organized track day versus just sometimes tracks will have open days. Like one of our local tracks, like Fridays are usually a car day, and it like the track is open. They have people like working the stations. The track officials are there, but there's no organizing body, and so like usually they'll just do fast group or slow group. Which one do you want to be in? And they're like, okay, you're in the fast group, and then go. But there's not as much like control like say what you would have with NASA or SCCA at a track. So it can be a little bit more stressful.
If I can make a suggestion, if you're really new and you don't know where to start, SCCA's Track Night in America events are phenomenal. They have instructors there. It's super reasonably priced. It's very structured. It's easy to get on track. You don't need shit. If you show up with literally nothing but your mom's Grand Marquis and you're like, I want to get on track, they're going to find a way to get you on track. I mean, you don't need anything. They're just super simple. It's probably the easiest way to get on track that exists.
It doesn't take away all your whole day either.
Yep.
It's that's a real easy way to gauge if you even like it, right? Like before you even start doing all this prep shit, like, yeah, it looks cool until you start fucking realizing how much it costs, how much shit's going to break, right? So I can't second what Dewey said, 100%. Try SCCA Track Night. It is my go-to for anybody.
Is it
as well as myself? So.
Here it's on Thursdays. Is that kind of standard what it is, or does it vary?
I've seen them on like weird nights, Wednesdays,
on Tuesdays, Wednesdays.
Yeah, the ones they run out in Blackhawk Farms in Illinois, I know are on like weird nights, but that's the ones that a few of my buddies do, and they just try to hit 2 or 3 of them a year, and that's what they like to do with their track. That's the track. All they do with track stuff is hit a couple of those events a year, and it scratches that itch. And for a lot of people, it's all they're going to need. For somebody like me, it ain't going to be enough. But I tell you what, you have a riot. Even I've driven in all sorts of tracks and all sorts of shit. But I have a 2013 BRZ that I use as my trainer. And if there's a track night in America going on, I've got that open night, and I think I can get in there. I will have a riot going there and just ripping laps in my car. And you still learn a ton and you meet some cool people. And I just can't stress it enough. You never know who you're going to meet at these things. They're great. They're great events. Super chill.
Yeah. Well, and I think the first sign, like if you're thinking you want to drive competitively and you figure out going to the track, you get on track a couple of times, the first thing that you're looking for is like what you just described to is like, if you start thinking about like, well, when's the next event? Like I've got to do this like 2 or 3 times is not enough. I've got to do it more. That's a good sign that you're starting to move in the right direction.
Yeah. Well, the addiction is taking hold. I don't know if it's the right direction or not.
Once you start saying like, am I faster than somebody else? That's when it's got you.
That's when when you start doing the math on a second mortgage on the house.
Oh man. Yep.
Can I not eat this month?
Yeah. I like ramen. How much do I like ramen?
Yeah.
Do I really like ramen? I really
get
like
water
ramen
at work. I'll be pretty.
That's
good.
right. Yeah. Man. Well, and so that brings up the next point, because I think that tipping point to being like, I like to do this, I want to do this more, and then like getting a little bit of that motivation of like, I want to be faster, I want to be faster than that guy, I want to do like a full season of events. That can be something that people can jump into a little bit too quickly, because like there's a difference between going to a track day here and a track day there to then tracking the car a lot, like maybe 2-3 times a month, say.
Yeah. It's a difference from bumping cocaine at a night party than doing it every day.
That's right. I'll take a word for it. But yeah, makes sense. I mean,
allegedly.
Allegedly.
Welcome to Heat Exchanger.
Yes.
Right.
Fair.
I mean, no, you're 100% right. Like there is a pace. I believe that you need to pace yourself out.
Yes.
If you just jump in, it's it can get real debt-like real fucking quick, right?
Well, and I think part of the trap is to like really start to think about trying to go fast first, and not think about how much is it going to cost to add, say, 100 horsepower, and then how much wear and tear is that extra 100 horsepower going to create on the car, what is the effect of adding power and speed to the consumables cost? Because then it could the scales
Also,
can tip out of control.
You really
quickly.
you kind of hit something on the point here.
Yeah,
is
that's
you
the problem.
immediately said, I'm going to add 100 horsepower.
That's
all
not
right.
fast.
That's so that's not necessarily the way. That is a way you can go faster, but this is kind of sitting on the top of the Mount Stupid of the Dunning-Kruger curve. You don't realize where you're at. You know what I mean? Okay. Where you probably could go significantly faster if you learn to drive the car better. Or if maybe we could work on some stuff, maybe your alignment's way off. Like the balance of this car is trash. You would probably learn more by sticking a really good driver in the car and seeing where you're messed up, but maybe your ego won't allow that. And this balance is as hard to find as anything. You might be able to add 100 horsepower with some minor modifications, like let's say $2,500. Okay. And you can get somewhere in there. You add like 40, 50 horsepower to the car. And yeah, you're going to net faster lap times. You're going to wear the shit out of your car, as you just stated. But maybe a weekend of coaching, like it's really hard for people to go, I want to spend $500 this weekend in renting a coach and actually learning how to drive would go a really probably further. And that's something they would take to any car they ever drove. And it's things like that. Just you can't immediately go to horsepower, which is something that we've all done. I've done it. I guarantee everybody in this chat's done it. Anybody listening to this has done it. That you go, man, if I just had another 50 horsepower, yeah, but like I bet you're probably leaving 5 miles an hour on half of the corners on this track. You know?
There we go. I'll stop speaking the truth, Dewey. Damn. But I mean, no, that's 100%. Like that's accurate. I think horsepower is probably the last thing you need to add. Like I think a lot of times, like when you first get into the competitive mode, you start comparing yourself to the top end of the class. Right? Like imagine like these days coming in, say you start looking at Dewey's car, the street mod, right? You're like, I got to get to there. So I need this 500 horsepower, 3,000 pound fucking monster, right? It's like,
don't even
whatever you tell the ladies. But like a lot of times it's like you can add that horsepower, especially as a beginner or even intermediate. No, fuck it. Most people, advanced or not, even the people we compete with right now, they are parking in the corners, right? Like Dewey said, they're 2 to 3 mile an hour slower mid corner, right? Which is such a significant difference. Like it's hard to even comprehend like how big of a difference that is. But you're talking about damn near a full car and a half, right? So like
but that's at the beginning too. If you're talking, let's say 5 mile an hour, and that's before a long straight, dude. That's multiple seconds by the end of the straight.
Right. Yeah. I think you got to compound that with how many turns you have on the track. Yeah. Right. So you've got seconds. So and like you said, everybody's guilty of it. I'm definitely guilty of it.
Well, it's because I think as you're getting started, we equate speed with power. Like and like you're saying, like the speed at the end of the back straight, how quickly you can get down the straight. The way that we understand that initially is it all has to do with power, and you forget or you don't know yet how like the corners at either end of that straight are a key piece of how you enter that straightaway when you're getting on the throttle. What your exit speed from that quarter is and how that is directly related to your speed at the end of the straight as well. You don't have those pieces of the puzzle, so you just think I need more power to go faster.
But also, like even think about how you just said that, right? It's like a fucking nerd. Right, saying power is far easier and sounds way sexier, right?
Oh yeah,
totally.
Like you can't tell your coworkers like, yeah, I got a driver coach and I feel pretty good in this corner. You be like, I got fucking 600 horsepower. Well, pull that piece of shit outside right now.
So, like, if anybody's gonna pull any advice from this, if you're gonna spend some cash, a very good place to start is like an AIM Solo. Just the speed trace from an AIM Solo is gonna teach you so much. It's incredible. You data, just starting out early with trying to understand data. I wish somebody would have done that to me. So if I can give any bit of advice, it's I didn't start even trying to comprehend data till way too late.
Yeah, and it's one of those. It's there's some cell phone apps too. You don't even have to have.
Yeah. Harry's lap timer, phenomenal to start out with, and it's like $30 to get the good one. Okay, that'll do video and everything. And if you show a Harry's lap timer video with a little bit of data to somebody who has a pretty good understanding. And I have people do this all the time. They're in their like BRZ or whatever. They're like, hey man, look at my lap on Harry's and let me know. And I'll sit there and watch it. Dude, you'll learn so much. You will learn so much from that. Just that little session right there. And
pay attention to what people are talking about in the pits in between track sessions, because you're probably going to see 2 or 3 people that are all huddled about looking at cell phones. You're like, what is going on? Or looking at like a laptop with some data. They're probably looking at comparing laps, and like if you saunter over there and introduce yourself, you start getting involved in that conversation. You start piecing together how lap actually goes together. Like it's you're stringing corners together, and there's a lot to it.
Something that I think this somehow derived from Mario Andretti at one point, but I'm going to butcher this. But basically he said it's something along the lines of, it's funny how many people think brakes are for slowing the car down.
Yes. I love that quote.
That it is, and it's the honest to God truth. And this all comes into data, like brakes and your minimum cornering speed, like all tie together really. And it's just understanding that balance. So really taking a huge step back from, because we just unloaded a ton of information. We're all over the place. Really what we're trying to say is learn to drive your damn car first before you add horsepower.
Yep.
Because at the beginning, like how you are driving the car, how you are using the car, every aspect of it, from the steering wheel to the throttle to the brake, everything can probably be optimized. And there's at every step of learning that how to use the inputs to the car, there's time to be had there.
Yep.
And if you don't learn that at the beginning and you just throw more loud pedal at it, you're missing these really important lessons. And then this is where you see people that are driving big, powerful cars that are getting just smoked by Miatas.
I do want to step back a second though. I don't want to say optimize. I want to say competent, because optimization can lead you down real dark hole too. Right? So I want you to be right. You want you to be competent with the controls, because every lap you should be learning something, right? Because you always go through the circle, right? You find a line, find your braking points, find your corner exit, find your mid corner, and then actually you end up repeating that all over again. Once you get to that mid corner point, you're like, well, maybe I can go a little deeper. Okay, all right, maybe I need to put the car 12 inches more this way. 12's a lot, but 6 inches more this way, right? So let's just be competent. We want you to be competent on track.
Yeah.
Well, and so we've talked about instruction. Have either of you guys had like taken a lesson or worked with a coach or anything like that?
I worked with a coach just once. So
yeah.
I've been fortunate enough to be able to have some really good conversations with some pretty good coaches. I have yet to pay for a coach, but I probably should have, for some of the information that's been given to me.
Yeah, what he said.
Yeah, like I am very fortunate to be surrounded by some extraordinarily great drivers who are willing to help me out. Now, with that stated, I am looking into getting some coaching still. I mean, if you want a really good example, look at somebody like Peter Granberg. Okay, Peter, very good driver. Okay, really, really solid. Got coaching this year, came within, what was it, 3 1,000ths of the championship this year in Club TR. Like, that's how close the championship was. And he came from like the perennial third place guy to 2 psychopaths battling it out like King Kong Godzilla at the end. Like it was awesome to see. He even took James Houghton out and a straight up heads up battle. Like, and he'll immediately tell you it's due to the coaching. And a coach has the ability to see things from a different perspective than you are. And they're going to find ways to improve in ways that you never would be able to in a much, much faster rate.
So. Well, and ideally, if you're working with a good coach, they're probably going to drive your car. Even if you're not getting coaching, if you can have somebody drive your car, this was the first eye opener for me. Is like I was driving to this track that I thought I was familiar with, and I thought I knew and was doing okay, and then I had this guy that was a professional driver get into my car, and I rode along, and it was terrifying, and it was completely eye-opening, because it was like I thought the car's capabilities were here, and I was like right here, and it turns out they were like here, and I was here. And yeah, just like it was completely, there was a whole nother dimension to what the car could do that I wasn't even scratching the surface of. And so it can kind of show you that, but then also techniques to actually find that speed and use that speed. Yeah, I mean, that could just, I mean, it's like finding a cheat code.
Yeah.
You know, it shows you what's
Absolutely.
possible. And yeah,
It's wild how much, especially with Subarus, I like to bring this up a lot. They kind of inspire confidence in a way. So people think they're going a lot faster than they actually are till you put somebody who really understands the car. How wildly capable these vehicles are, because you get like lulled in, oh, this thing only makes like 300 horsepower and it's kind of heavy, you know, and it's a larger car, but you can take a stock STI and shove it right up the ass about any Porsche if you can wheel the thing. It is absolutely unreal how much ground those things can cover on a track situation. But you have to know how to extract that. And having somebody do that can be wildly eye-opening for you.
Yeah. Having a car like a Subaru that sneaks up on people and it has 4 doors and it just doesn't seem like it should be quick. There's that can be one of the fun bits of
off. They don't
going
sneak
to
up on anybody.
100% is
no shot.
Okay, no, straight up. I'm gonna crap on your whole Corvette thing. Okay. So
here we go.
If you go if you win something with a Subaru, you did something amazing. Okay. You did this giant crazy thing and the community's all for it. Everybody's in it. If you win something with a Corvette, everybody's just like, yeah, but it's a Corvette.
Well, I mean, I think that's community bias. Because when I see a Subaru like your car, I don't think it's like I root for you because I like you. I mean, and you're a little bitch. But I also see like it's just a rad combination, right? And I think that about a lot of Subarus. And I see a Corvette as like it's kind of the easy button. So the community, like the Corvette community, are just like, yeah, motherfucker, no shit you won. What do you mean? Beating up on fucking Subarus? Yeah, you fucking won, stupid. So I get that aspect.
But you even get that from the Subaru community. Or the other, any part of the community. If you even get close with a Subaru, it's almost like you won. But even it's the same thing with like a Honda community. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like you take an NA Honda hatch or whatever, and you scare the shit out of like a GTR on track. Dude, you're a hero. Yeah. You might not have passed them, but if you hung with them, dude, you're a hero. You know, underdog is always an inspiring story.
Yes,
100%. I mean, but with that being said, an underdog versus an underdog Subaru community, I still think you guys have a lot of competent cars. Now, however, I still don't fucking like them, and I still think y'all blow up. I just want to make this clear for whoever's listening.
That's fair. Okay, all right.
Okay? All right. I know some people on here don't know me.
So every platform has got its own set of issues, man.
Yeah,
there's no perfect car out there.
Yeah, but Super just got more of them. But I digress.
But this is an interesting point though, which is now it's harder to take those cars and get them to hit that far above their weight, like stock for stock, than what it used to be. And that's like this is part of the reason I led you down to this point, which is I think now the game has changed a little bit as far as how you pick this place to start or the car that you're driving.
Absolutely.
Because it used to be the like I mean, heck, let's take a Subaru, like a base 2.5 RS or base 2.5 Impreza. There was so much commonality between the WRX and the STI. You could have somebody, and I've seen people where they start out with just the naturally aspirated 2.5 engine and they're just driving it and they like it and it's not fast compared to some of these turbocharged cars. You can put in the turbocharged engine, you can modify, you can put bigger turbos on it, throw all sorts of stuff at it and like develop the car through years and years and years. And that's, I'm going to say that's a little bit more challenging now than it has been ever before.
Yeah.
Kinda.
No.
Yeah.
So what I am going to say is if you're trying to punch at the top of a time attack class, yes. And that's a lot of that is due to the development of like just off the lot cars have gotten ridiculous. I mean, let's take the Supra, for example.
Yeah.
The car's not freakishly heavy. It's shaped beautifully for aero. It's got an engine that's very easy to make boatloads of horsepower. It's got a transmission that's as good or better than a dual clutch that just works, and not only that, through the development of a few people out there, Jackie and a few of the others, they've got this almost cookie cutter like recipe to make these things ballistically fast, and fighting that with a car that was designed in the 90s with 4 struts that was designed to take grandma back and forth to the grocery store to get safely in the winter is hard. You have to start thinking way outside of the box. Thankfully, like, rules have changed a bit, tire technology has changed a bit, but yeah, it used to be pretty easy to just kind of cherry pick some stuff from a higher level trim level of your car and kind of put a little secret sauce together and have yourself a little rocket and go out there and surprise people. And that's not easy to do anymore.
Yeah, I think so. Circle back when he said, it depends on what organization you want to run with, right? Like you can kind of show up to like the SCCA time trial series. It's kind of in its infancy, right? It's only a couple of years old. And you can show up with a non-optimized car or something that's not tippy-toppy and chassis wise, and you can be competitive and probably win a little bit, right?
Sure.
But if you want to come play with the axe murderers, right, you're gonna have to have an axe murderer car, right? Like like Club TR, you can get away with some your common track day cars, your hatches, your 90s era Hondas, S2000s, your Subaru BRZs, your Miatas, even as long as you make enough power or cut a little weight, but you can still play a little bit. But if you want to come in like the street mod and above, or even street, or no, yeah,
street,
absolutely, street and above, you gotta come with a good chassis, right?
I still stand by the class that you have to least optimize your car for in Gridlife is Street GT, because the right way to do it is go pick up a C6 Z06 or a new C8 Vet, and it slots right in, and that car is really good.
Yeah.
Minor suspension and some wheels and tires, and you can fight near the top of that class.
Yep.
But if you want to come show up to street mod, buddy, you better be ready. It is ridiculous in that class, and we're beating the living shit out of the walls of that sandbox.
I would say like you need a sports car that's within the last 15 years. Like if you want to, like even like a Transmero bird would be pretty comparable. Oh, sorry, a Camaro, sorry, would be pretty competitive. Even like your Mustangs, your S550s. But you're gonna have to come with something modern with a good rigid chassis, especially if you're not willing to cage it yet. And even then, like, I mean, you got to have pretty good cage for it to even come close to some of these cars come OEM,
Yep.
So yeah, like you really need to decide where you want to play. Like street mod, you want to dabble your toes, okay, but they're gonna cut those motherfuckers off.
What really sucks for a lot of people with street mod too, since I do know this is going to go in front of a lot of Subaru people, is it's very easy in a lot of these classes to modify your vehicle and accidentally end up in street mod. Okay. And so whatever you're trying to do before you start modifying, like figure out what organization you want to run with and figure out what class you want to work. It's actually, I enjoy modifying a car for a class more than I like just throwing parts at a car, because it puts walls, and you have to actually start thinking about what you're putting together, and you start making a much more optimized vehicle that way. But really think about what you're doing. And let's say you have a street car with a whole bunch of power. Don't be afraid to demodify. Put a smaller turbo on, put some smaller wheels and tires on, rip that stupid wing that you put on the back of it that you grabbed from eBay and it's aftermarket aero, so it's kicking you into some class you don't want. Be okay with demodifying your car, and at that point you'd actually be surprised how fast you could take some mildly prepped street vehicle and throw it into maybe an SCCA class and not do okay. Gridlife these days though, you better show up optimized.
For the
At
class.
Least,
yes, for the class.
70% there. You got to be at least 70% there.
So this is another reason to like focus on you as the driver, get experience on track, really try and hone your driving skill. And in the process of doing that, check out these different series, these different events. Just even like if there was the HPDE at Gridlife, go to Gridlife, participate in the HPDE, but pay really close attention to the different classes, the cars that are running, the way that the events are going, which one you think you would want to participate in before you do a whole lot to your car.
Yes.
Because so what we're talking about with these rule sets is these are the ways that you differentiate these classes, and they're pretty specific. And so you've got to know what you're getting into. You can't just look at like optimizing or trying to improve your suspension. Like even something as simple as coilovers, whether it's a one-way adjustable, three-way adjustable, like a full coilover, or just you're on stock struts, like that decision can put you in 3 different classes.
Exactly.
Just that one decision.
What I have tried to tell a lot of people too is go to these events as a spectator, not to drive, not to do anything else. The pits are all open. Everybody's down to talk about their cars. Everybody wants
are they boy? Please talk to me about a car.
Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Come talk. And so go to these events, walk up to these cars that are in said class, get a really good understanding of what you would be running against and what it actually looks like. Because if you read a rule book on paper and you're gonna form an image in your brain of what you think that is. But then you actually go to the event and see it. If you looked on paper at what street modified was, like at the rule book, and just tried to put together in your brain what a street modified STI looks like, and then you actually go to an event and you see like mine or Mike Omick's car, like they don't look like what you think that would be. Okay, the concept of that class started as bolt-on power stuff and some like an APR front splitter and a wing, you know what I mean? That's what it was supposed to be. And then we just beat the shit out of the walls of the sandbox of that class. And it's different. So go there with the intent of doing research, watch the times, understand the format, talk to the drivers, try to get involved. Hell, go there and help. Go there and help somebody in their pits. You will learn so much, and everybody is looking for help.
Always. Yeah. It just having a sense for, how the classes run, what the cars are like, and even just what the speeds are. Cause like, you said you got your BRZ. I mean, there's people that love their BRZs. It's a different driving experience than Boogie. But I'm sure you could see why there's people that like, I get the BRZ. I get why, the light rear wheel drive, lowish horsepower, momentum car, that can be really fun and rewarding to drive.
Yep.
So you figure that out, but like that's not the car that you're going to want to take, especially in close to that stock, and then try and run it street mod. Like, that's just not.
I mean, you can try; it just won't work out that way.
Well, the days of showing up to a Gridlife event specifically, okay, you could probably still get away with this at certain SCCA events and other. But the days of showing up to a Gridlife event with a modified car for you think it's set up for track use, or maybe it's a total track slut, whatever, but just showing up and going, all right, what class am I in? And thinking that you have a prayer, those are gone. Those were gone a long time ago. It will not happen that way again. And even the classes that used to be very, I guess, ill-populated, there's no such thing as an ill-populated class in Gridlife anymore. It does not exist. You need to show up prepped if you want a prayer to even sniff a podium. So you have to have looked at the rule book. You need to know where your car is going to land, and you probably should have an idea of who you're running against and what that delta
whole
program looks like.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Like go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say that, and a big part of that is because Gridlife has gotten so big and so popular and so well known. So you've
Yes.
got you're up against people that are traveling nationally to compete in all these events. So now, if you go to your whatever your local track event is, say SCCA or NASA or what have you, there might be less competition, and this is why these are great places to start.
Yeah.
Because it's less competition that's coming in like to really like clobber everybody, and you can kind of get a feel for it.
Go to your local autocross event or whatever and just see where they throw you in and go compete. And if you win, you win. You don't, you don't. You know, or the SCCA events, you want to go try to do some sort of time trial style event. You know, they're calling it time trials or time. They've got a few different things. I've heard them spew out what they're calling that, but you know, go to the local SCCA event. They've got a ton of different classes. Maybe you slot into something that works out. You've got a much higher percentage of doing that. There is a literal 0% chance you're doing that in Gridlife anymore.
Right.
Yeah, definitely. I think SCCA would definitely be the go-to if you want to see where you stand competition-wise. Other rules are a little funky, but they basically fall street line and below for the most part. So yeah, it's definitely a good place to see where you're at. Like NASA-wise, if you want to do a time trial event, like if you got street tires, it's kind of a then you got to go through the whole ladder program to even get a TT license. It's kind of a headache, right? Like if you want to do a long HPDEs, that's probably a good best way for you because their ladder system is pretty good. But like if you want to see where you stand, like time attack wise, I actually couldn't recommend SCCA enough because, like you said, Gridlife is as we have deemed the phrase axe murderers. That top 5 in any class is going to be hard in any track you go to. Especially if you try to show
find soft tracks anymore. They don't exist.
No.
This is a soft event. There ain't no such thing as a soft event anymore.
Yeah, everybody's showing up to fucking win. But set a record, not even just win. Like people are trying to blow the doors off records.
So let me ask you this: let's say this this person has gotten into racing. They've done their local events, say SCCA or NASA. They've done maybe a whole season. They've kind of got their car. They're honing their driving skills. They've got a season under their belt, finished, mid-tierish, but now they're looking towards Gridlife. How different is it to run like a local-ish season versus going up to Gridlife and going to some of these tracks, especially like if you're going to start really traveling, going to tracks that you're not familiar with? How much of a jump is that? Because I think they're like, once people get involved, like that is the other big jump that people can, like, they kind of put it on their bucket list. And they'll kind of jump into it and just say like, I'm going to do it. But maybe the understanding of how much of a difference that is not exactly spot on.
When you make that jump, just don't expect to win. Okay. You're going to have to make that jump, and there's going to be a little bit of, finding out and learning where you sit. Just don't expect to show up and win. Okay.
Seeding process.
You have to understand that your first season is probably going to be more of a reconnaissance effort.
Maybe more than even just the first.
It could be more than the first, but let's say you really feel and you got your shit together, and maybe you've got the resources to put something together, whether it's time to build a car, money to build a car, you already got a car, whatever. It's gonna take a little bit to learn. Okay. How this all functions, especially if you're going to tracks, you really don't have a concept of just how fast some of these cars actually are moving.
Yeah. You don't have the budget. It's going to cost a lot, right? Your entry fees are going to be more. You're going to spend more on travel gas. I mean, even to think about that, you should be testing the car at least one event, 2 track days, HPDAs before you go to this time attack event. So you got to factor that in too. Not to mention like just your consumables, your recheck and everything, right? Like you're gonna come up with your own checklist of what you need to go through before you even think about loading it on a trailer, right? You need to come up with a plan of how you're going to attack this, right? Like, how are you going to attack first session? How are you going to attack secondary? If you're behind, what are you going to do about it? What can you change? What's adjustable? What are your settings now? What you come in with? What are you going to leave with? Right? Like it becomes a your top end of your grassroots to where you're starting to basically be like your own crew chief and you're starting to do a lot. And this is just if if you just want to show up to have fun, fuck everything I just said. Show up, have fun, right? But I'm just saying if you want to be on a tippy top end of all these series, I mean, just for instance, you got to think about like Sunday Cup guys. They're blueprinting what they torque their fucking wheel bearings to just for friction, right? So like you got to start. You got to start thinking about things like that, right? And that's in your lowest class. And the Club TR guys, right, are trying to see who can get to 2,500 pounds with as much horsepower as they possibly can. Right? So yeah, like it's going to be a consistent. It's going to be an ever changing atmosphere because rules change, optimization change, new tires change. With Club TR, you can have a control. Club TR and Sunday Cup, you got to control with the Falcon thing. But just know that it's going to require a lot more effort and a lot more planning and just a different mindset you have to have when you want to be competitive at the top end.
Well, and kind of what makes me think of, or what I think of with what you said there, Devin, is you might not be able to do it yourself. If you're going to be traveling, you might actually get to the point where you actually need at least one, maybe two people to go with you.
Can I say this right though? It is impossible to be up top by yourself. It's impossible.
Absolutely. Everybody who's at the top of any one of these classes at least has some help. Okay, some form. The other thing that I think a lot of people coming from other organizations are taken back by when they come to a Gridlife event, even in like Group A with the crazy fast cars, okay, is how many cars are on track at the same time. And learning spacing is hard. Okay. And understanding your competitors is hard. And that's going to take time because you're going to end up having to learn a lot of different cars, a lot of different people. And you have to gain an understanding of that, how the other classes actually function. Like, I'm in a Club TR car, but this is a track mod car in front of me. I should have some sort of concept of how I need to space this guy because my minimum cornering speeds are probably going to be quite a bit higher than what this guy is, but he's probably making a ton more horsepower than I am, something along those lines.
He's referencing if you're in the same group after your time sessions.
Yes.
So you guys are making your time deltas you're making the same time or close to the same time, but in completely different ways.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, you're gonna have to work through traffic.
Really have to understand how to create the space that you need to run the lap you need to, and it throws people off because the run groups are fairly large in Gridlife. Okay, so you have to, the faster you go, the harder it is to find that spacing. So and the really fast guys are all going to be in B and A, unless you're in Sunday Cup. And then Sunday Cup's its own thing too, because all the cars run damn near identical times. So it's rough all in its own. So that takes people back a little bit. So when they do make that transition, that's why I'm saying, like, your first event, you're probably not going to show up and just destroy everybody, unless your name's Alan Patton, and then then you're just Alan Patton.
I mean, it's always an outlier, right?
Yeah, can be done. Not
that
easy.
Guy, that everything we just said gets thrown right in the trash.
Yeah. Hey, some people put it on the table, let you know.
Yep.
Man.
That's right.
Well, and I want to ask reliability. So we talked about testing, and would reliability be something like a key indicator for whether or not you're ready? Like, the driving skill is something that you're going to probably have to learn and something that's going to have to develop. But if your car is not reliable, even just doing like regional events, local events, like even putting together a season, if you're chasing a lot of problems and the performance of the car is inconsistent, like, how much of it, if you're working through that issue, would you say, like, I got to run another season to figure this stuff out? Or would you say, maybe I can figure this stuff out as I'm now trying to step up to this higher class or this bigger series?
I would highly recommend showing up with as sorted of a car as you possibly can put together. If you're having massive inconsistency problems, or you're chasing like what I know, right? You're chasing like freakish oil temps. Take this from somebody who's lived it. Okay. There is no way I could do what I did in 2019 right now. I could not do it. You absolutely could not do it. And it is a different world from 2019 to today. A lot happened post pandemic and how axe murdery we all got. It's you show up, you need to show up prepared. Okay. And shit's still gonna happen. No matter how prepped your car is, shit's gonna happen. But if you're showing up with known issues, you're not gonna have a good time, and the people around you are not going to have a good time, and the community will let you know.
The community will let you know pretty instantly that.
Yep. There's a
what the fuck did you
there's
do
a
that?
community podcast out there now, kind of set up just for things like this.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
We'll
know,
let you know. Car number is 67.
Yep.
Fucking left the oil trail down the back straight. Fuck that guy, huh?
Yep.
Okay.
We're gonna talk about today on today's heat exchanger, car number
That's
67.
Yeah, I mean, like, so it's kind of like that's one of the things that are in your control, right? Like, come with a reliable car that you as reliable as you can get it, or the people you got working with can get it.
Let's be real, man.
Comes out.
It's a time attack car. These are going to be high strung. If you're doing especially anything street modding up, these are going to be fairly high strung cars, and shit's going to happen. But come as sorted as you possibly can. If you don't feel good about it, there's probably a reason.
Yeah, don't show up. You can sell your ticket day of.
Your ticket will sell immediately.
Right. So it's fine. Yeah, I think that's another thing to circle back. Like once you get to that intermediate level, we're thinking like this is something you want to do everything you can to make the car reliable. Make your maintenance intervals. Don't like, hey, this is a track car. Hey, 7,500 miles, I'm gonna cut it for oil changes, bro. Like, hey, cut that down to every two events. That's what I do with mine. Right?
Yeah.
Like
you do 2 event oil changes?
Mm-hmm.
Dude, I do 2 oil changes an event.
Well, you also have one.
Let's just say it.
I think that's good for you. I think that's just good for you.
Okay.
You know, and 2, they might not be voluntary, so it's okay.
Oh man.
Oh, we got to be that guy.
Well, I'm just sitting consistent with character.
Fair.
Well, and this is because Dewey, you had talked about like to keep in mind like detuning the car a little bit. Like if you can't get the reliability, like if you can't hit the reliability that you want, like turning the wick down might be the very first step towards trying to chase that reliability.
Well, you'd actually be surprised at how much speed you can find. Like when we won the championship in 23, people laugh at me when I say this, but we did it on 580 wheel 80% of the season. Okay, which was way down from what the car could make. But we found speed everywhere else. Honestly, through the conversations that we had earlier with focusing on minimum cornering speed and the balance of the vehicle and, me not just sucking in general. And the car, I don't know, completing laps, which was really awesome. There's time to be had there. You can find time in other ways. Horsepower is not the answer always. Now, sometimes it is what you have to do to try to go fight James Houghton, but it's not always the answer.
I mean, Ferris does have 1,000 horsepower. It's pretty sick. But circle back. I mean, it's like the Pro Evo, right? The last time it's been out when it's got the 3rd fastest record at Gingerman. Like that was a down on power. It's only made 550 at that day, right? So, I mean, power isn't all be all. You can make speed other ways.
Yep.
It's speed everywhere, not just on the straights. It's speed everywhere.
Right.
Yeah. And actually, if you do the math on how much you can pick up by picking up 5 mile an hour on a corner compared to you picked up a few mile an hour on a straightaway, like the 5 mile an hour on a corner is it's going to net you gains not only from that corner, but all the way down that next straightaway. So like it's huge. It's absolutely huge. And picking up 5 mile an hour on a straightaway is a giant amount of stress on your equipment.
Yeah. Much things to consider here. So as we're winding down, I know it's later for you guys than it is for me, so I don't want to keep you guys too late. But is it worth it? Like if you've got the bug, and you want to do this, and you start to get into this machine
Oh, brother.
that is, time attack or GLTC, and you start trying to ride this thing, like, is it worth it?
I'm going to say yes, but it is yes with an asterisk.
Okay.
It is a yes, but it's okay to step back when you don't have the resources. When I mean resources, always time, money, effort. If one of those things are lacking, it's okay to step back. As somebody that stepped back at least 3 times in my 10 to 15 years. Fuck, it's been that long. But
You're old.
yeah, bro. I'm younger than you by a whole decade. Shut up.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah. But yeah, like if you have the resources, it's worth it. I mean, it's hard to explain, right? Like it's like asking a football fan, is it worth watching your team get fucked up every year? Right? Like it's asking somebody that's not good at basketball but still goes down to the YMCA. Right? Like, yeah, it's worth it. I mean, look, for most of us, dog shit at video games, but we still play them every goddamn evening.
Yep.
Right? So it's worth it. If you can afford it, if you like doing it, fuck it, do it, bro. Like life's too short. It's worth it.
So that's kind of where I'm at, man. I built Boogie, like put that on afterburners to get that thing done quickly, because they pulled a tumor out of my head, and I'm like, something this stupid could take me out at any point. Like you can't, if you're constantly saying, I wish I would have, or I need to prep to do this or whatever, are you really living? You know what I mean? So like, I don't know. Time attack for me, the way I look at it is it's always been my outlet to try to make some sort of dent in the planet. And it's, it might be a small dent, but it's my dent. And for me, yeah, it's totally worth it. But I live and breathe this stuff. I love it so much. I got to be real. If it wasn't for the Subaru community specifically and how much they've really egged me on to keep trying to do this, there's been some times where I would have stepped away from this. Like there were some hard times, but if it wasn't for them, staying behind me, it makes it worth it, and to me, that makes it worth it. I feel like if I win, I feel like we kind of all won, what I mean? And I think that's a part of it. We're doing this as a group. But yeah, like I said, it's
once you get going with the community,
but you'll know if it's worth it.
Yeah,
that's true. You'll know if it's for you relatively quickly. I mean, flip side, I do owe the Subaru community. It's how I got into time attack. Actually, from the TH Motorsports STI thing, that's what actually made me want to do time attack. I was like, that thing was cool. I would do that. But man, yeah, I mean, like
I'm behind that one.
Yeah, right.
Oh man.
But yeah, man, I mean, the 10 years, dude, I've met some of my favorite people in the world. I'm here talking to you two, which I enjoy doing this. I like trying to build shit that I think's cool. So like you'll know if it's worth it to you right away.
Yep.
For sure. Well, and my thinking on it is it's worth it if it's not, if like the fun is greater than the stress. If the stress starts to outweigh the fun, then that's where like maybe some recalculation needs to be done. But I think you can always find a through line to make it enjoyable and fun and worth it.
I've been in situations where my wife literally has said, what are you even doing this for? Because you not happy right now. You're not happy right now. And it's made me have to like reassess why I do this, and then I'll be at work and I'll get an email and some dude will be like, hey man, I've been following your build since like forever back in the Go Faster Suck days and whatever. And, I've been following you for a while and I'm talking about an engine or whatever. And I'm looking to do this in my car. And, like, it's super cool. And that like, I don't know, for me, that just does it. I think my favorite one is when, I'll get a guy from Australia who will call me and we'll be talking on the phone. This has happened more than once now. And he's like, yeah, there's this dude who does time attack over there. And he's, his car's called Boogeyman. I'm trying to do something like that. I'm like, oh, that's me. And they're like, what? And they just look shit. And dude, nothing makes you feel cooler than that. And it kind of reminds you, it puts some stuff into perspective.
It means you're making that dent.
Making the dent. And that's really what I'm trying to do is just make a dent.
Sometimes I'm with Dewey. The same thing. The wife is like, what the fuck? Why are you doing this? Like you are obsessed over this. You're upset.
If your wife isn't doing this, then either you're not going hard enough or you don't have a wife.
Yeah.
True. You're not wrong. I mean, for instance, like he said this, I got this 1,400 word document on assessing why I do this and a game plan to make sure I can do it and still be in the resources and still have my wife. Right. Right. So, I mean, yes, it will be stressful, but boy, when it's good, it's good.
Oh man. Woo!
That's good.
Nothing is better than winning with records, boy. You got that trophy and you're running around hanging pirate flags and yarring at people and best times of my life.
It's good. It's good. I would say to it. My wife wasn't about to leave me, but it sounded better. But yeah, man, when it's good, it's good. Like it's a joy. I can still remember like doing like last podium sprint thing. Before it was called that, where you just get your 2 laps by yourself. Like I still imagine doing it with Andy, me and him, the only people out there, road Atlanta. Like, it's just a magical time. Coming in, getting fist pumps from Adam. Once you get a fist pump from Adam, then you'll know. That's when you'll know it's worth it.
Yep, when Adam goes, man, that was some shit. And you get a fist bump from Adam. Yeah, that's when you just feel like you did something. And
pretty good.
Very cool. Well, guys, as we're winding it down here, again, thanks very much for setting aside the time to come on, and everybody needs to check out the Heat Exchanger podcast. But, for you, both of you individually, like, where can they find you, follow you, see what you're up to? Dewey, go first.
Okay. I'm easy to find. I work at IAG. If you call up to IAG and ask for Dewey, you're going to get me. So if you ever want to talk about IAG things, engines, builds, whatever, that's what I do. I also do another podcast called the IAG Thursday Thing, which is very Subaru oriented. And you and I seem to keep stealing show ideas from each other. I got a great one this week. I'm really interested to see if you have a take on this idea. I don't want I don't call it stealing, because I think you and I come up with a lot of the same ideas because we're looking at the community
stuff.
And then we think about things in the same way. And it's funny because I literally have had stuff on my schedule to do, and then you do it, and I'm like, shit, I got to kick that at least 3 or 4 weeks so it doesn't look like I just copied them. And
that's fine.
It's great. It's great. And like, you've done some awesome stuff. I think the resources you've done for the community are killer. And but the IAG Thursday Thing, and then obviously the Heat Exchanger podcast. And I'm Dewey, so DEWEYWRX on Instagram is probably the easiest way to get a hold of me. That or like the Track Subies Facebook group.
Nice. Which is a Facebook group largely Subaru based. Devin, we'd probably let you in if you wanted to, but I don't know that you would.
I probably would join. I mean, I see the one the FRS BRZ thing.
There you go.
I got plans for that.
So Devin, where can folks find you, see what you're up to?
I mean, I've got a lot, right? Like I write for S3 Magazine, still write for Professional Awesome, our group, Professional Awesome Racing. The easiest way to find me is I'm Devin Giles. I'm really good on Instagram. It's where you can usually find me. I got all my links to shit there. And that's I-M and my name, DEVINGILES. Real easy.
Nice. Yeah. And
give me fucking reviews on my podcast too. Both of them. Heat Exchanger and Professional Awesome.
Some damn reviews.
There you go. There you go. Well, and Dewey, before we sign off, and now I'm curious. So we're recording this is Wednesday, so you're going to have Thursday Thing tomorrow. This won't go up tomorrow. So spoilers, or maybe to encourage people to go back and listen to it. What is your topic for tomorrow?
I'm literally going to have an argument with ChatGPT. So I'm going to have an argument with ChatGPT on how to modify a Subaru, but I'm going to start really broad and I'm going to get extremely specific. Like I want alignment settings, I want a list of parts that they would expect. Basically, I want to see if ChatGPT could replace me.
Oh boy.
So
what's scary is I've already done some small testing with it. And
it's really good.
Incredibly good.
It's really close.
What me off is where is it getting its information from?
Well, Yeah.
Yeah, I did it
Oh.
for the BMW, and I was like, "Holy fuck!" It's like all the math that I did, it all basically came out to the same thing. It's like,
Yep.
"Oh shit, okay, I just wasted
Yeah.
my time."
Yeah.
We've been curious too, and we've played around with that a bit. Not that deep, but it is surprising how smart it is. But it does seem like the context is missing.
Some of
It's
it
like-
is. And I'm
so that's-
interested to play with this. Especially nowadays, you know, if we're talking race cars, I want to see if it's gonna tell you to go you know, do some naughty EPA stuff. You know, I'm gonna poke this thing in all sorts of different ways, whether it's a track build, it's a street build, it's a drag build. Like I'm gonna ask it all sorts of very pointed questions like people would ask me. And I want to see what I get out of it. But the difference between the way I do it, the way you do it, is I'm doing this 100% live in front of people. So
yes.
Right.
I'm very interested to see how the audience gets in on this too, because I'm sure they're going to be with questions that I'm not thinking about. So we're going to try to really screw with ChatGPT tomorrow.
Very
we got
cool.
a really great thumbnail too. It's going to be sick.
Amazing.
Can you try to like do it with 01 ChatGPT and 04? Because the answers 01 will be far more detailed, and that is what I think would be super interesting.
Okay. Good notes.
Mhm.
Yeah, very cool. Well, so check that out. IAG's Thursday Thing, which probably came out last week as you're watching this. And
We're a
check
week
it out.
behind. Holy fuck. That
Well,
later week
You guys
Devin's dog
actually
shit.
do editing, like my shit's out next day because it's like, well, make sure it doesn't sound like somebody farted into a microphone. Okay, send it.
depends on the week. Depends on the week.
Yeah.
Right now, yes, we're slightly ahead. Well, I don't know how long it'll last, but I'm just gonna ride this wave as long as I can.
Yeah,
Okay.
do it, man.
Yes. Cool.
Hope
Well,
I'm colder
guys,
next week.
I
There you go.
want to make sure I throw this out here though. I
Yeah.
think what you guys are doing, I've said this last time I was on the show and I want to say it again. What you guys are doing with your podcasts and your video series and everything, it is absolute gold for the community. And I cannot thank you enough for the amount of effort you put into that. And I don't think you're going to get thanked enough for it, but you are such a valuable resource to the community. And I appreciate it, and I don't think the community understands how much they should appreciate it. But I because I've been here for so long and seen the community come and go and fall apart, and your resource is vital right now. It's absolutely vital to our community, and I appreciate the living hell out of you, man.
Well, Dewey, thank you so much. I cannot thank you enough for that. That means a ton. Yeah, it's none of it is easy, but it is the people that come up and say like, I thank you for helping me, or you explained this problem, or like it just helped me understand something better. That means the world to us here, and that's why we're going to keep doing what we're doing. And I love having these conversations to just try and like pick you guys' brains so that I don't have to come up with everything all at the same time. And it's just really neat to connect with the community, connect with some different communities.
Mhm.
Yeah, that to me, that's what it's all about. And I'm glad that it's working out there.
I want to say, fuck whatever Dewey just said. I just like you
Okay.
as a human. So
Oh,
you're doing a great job.
Devin, I will take that. Thank you.
Yeah.
I mean,
All right.
also, Devin, I like you as a human. And
Yeah,
I
you
will
shouldn't.
tell you, if you guys have not read anything that Devin has written, you got to check him out. Like, he's fun to listen to on the podcast. He's got, those dulcet tones, but fantastic writer as well. Love what you're writing, love your voice. It's good stuff.
It's really funny when I read something that he's written. I literally am reading it in his voice.
Yeah, I can hear.
I get that one pretty often.
Hear
It's pretty
him
funny.
say it.
Yep. It's becoming a lost art, man. So do not ever lose track of that.
Well, I appreciate that.
Yes.
All
Cool,
right,
man.
all right. Enough hugs. Get out of here.
Yes. All right, guys, get on with your nights. Thank you so much for your time. To everybody at home, thanks for your support as always. Stay tuned with Flatirons Tuning. Check out IAG's Thursday Thing. Check out Professional Awesome and the Heat Exchanger when you want to see the heads battle and stuff like that. So
Yes.
cool. All right. Thank you, guys. Have a good night.
Thanks everyone for tuning in to the Flatiron Syndicate Motorsports Podcast. Once again, we'd like to let you know that your support is what makes this show possible. Be sure to check out our online store at flatirons.com for any of your aftermarket or OEM Subaru parts needs. And as always, stay tuned with Flatirons Tuning.